Hi, my name is Winston Kang. I'm here to review the movie It. This past weekend, I saw the movie It, directed by Andy Muschietti, based on the novel of the same name by Stephen King. First off, let me say that I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. It was a highly entertaining monster flick with jump scares that surprisingly worked, which usually doesn't in many films. The movie stars various, mostly unknown, child actors and Bill Skarsgård as an evil entity called Pennywise the Dancing Clown, who terrorizes the town of Derry every 27 years. The main protagonist of this film is a stuttering Bill, who wants to avenge his little brother who was killed by Pennywise. The film focuses mostly on the kids and their relationships, their school bullies, dysfunctional adults, and the sharp-toothed killer clown that moves around in the sewers, devouring children. I have the novel in my house, which I never got around to reading. I did, however, see the miniseries on TV starring Tim Curry as a titular killer clown. This was 1990. There were two parts of the miniseries. The first half took place in 1960 and the second part in 1990. The first half mainly starred children, while the second half starred adults, the same children now all grown up. The TV show was fairly creepy for TV, particularly the first half, while the second half was on the cheesier side, with monster effects that were not quite on par with theatrical films of that time. Tim Curry was an effectively creepy clown, given that he often just popped out of nowhere to harass these kids. The second half wasn't helped by the fact that it starred mostly comedians such as Harry Anderson, John Masseur, and John Ritter from Three's Company. So this 2017 film fixes a lot of the problems that the miniseries had. This film only tells the first half of the story, I guess in a sense the better half, at least when I saw the miniseries it felt that way, which still works as a standalone story, with only the children as the protagonists. It also takes place in 1989, taking cues from the nostalgic retro look and style of Netflix's popular Stranger Things. To note, one of the kids from the show is also in this movie. Unlike the miniseries, the creature effects of this film is impressively creepy and artistically done. And this movie is rated R, which pretty much tells you that they aren't messing around here. Bill Skarsgård is excellent as Pennywise. He is going full-on creepy monster mode. I guess you could say this is to Tim Curry's Pennywise what Heath Ledger's Joker was to Jack Nicholson's Joker. This Pennywise isn't interested in dishing out any humor or making puns. He is meant to be terrible and scary. With that said, Skarsgård's acting has just enough subtlety and inflections of his voice to be original and interesting. The kids' acting are pretty top-notch. They feel like real kids and their situation is often quite terrible. Adults are unlikable here, for the most part, and are often one-dimensional. Maybe it's me, but I feel that this quite happens often in Stephen King films, such as Carrie, where teens or kids are protagonists, where all adults seem like terrible people. The plot isn't particularly complex. Much of the story here is about the characters and the horror that they face. Where it lacks in story, it has enough details about the characters that you care about their well-being, something many horror films fail at. There is plenty of humor in this film, which thankfully offsets some of the gloominess of the situation. Much of this humor comes from the 80s references to films and music and kids' sarcastic badmouth dialogue. Having been a child of the 80s myself, I found much to relate here. For the horror, as I mentioned, there is, yes, plenty of jump scares. However, this film isn't focused on the jump part of the jump scare, but focuses on the scare part of the jump scare. Allow me to explain. Usually in horror films, right when a jump scare comes, it's pretty quiet at first, and then there's a loud noise, which is usually followed by something horrific. And usually the loud noise is what really scares you in these films, and not whatever happens after, which is kind of unfortunate. But in this film, the horrific part lingers. You get a good look at what is supposed to scare you. The result feels earned and not cheap. Remember back in the day when seeing a creepy creature was the big payoff? Back in the day, it's basically what people would call a well-done popcorn horror flick. You know those good old monster movies? The special effects here are also quite good, many of them practical. As a miniseries failed with its lackluster special effects, this film succeeds. Without giving away any details, they did well with the budget. Director Andy Muschietti has made a solid horror film. If there are any complaints, I kind of feel that it has more to do with Stephen King's original story. The illusion part of how Pennywise operates in the world never seemed quite clear to me. Like, why is he just trying to scare these kids? I mean, I found out later on that he's scaring these kids because supposedly scared kids taste better, but then they never really explained that in the movie. The other complaint, of course, is the fact that the adults are mostly stereotypes. I'm not saying that that's not allowed, but such things can make the world feel a little less real. Overall, this is an entertaining horror film. The female audiences at my theater jumped and screamed in horror more than a few times while laughing afterwards. If they were not entertained, at least I was entertained by their reaction. Many also chuckled at the New Kids on the Block jokes. Well played, dear fellows. Well played. For this film, out of 5 stars, I give it 4.5. Thank you for listening. And subscribe if you like it. Thank you.